channel, Those Twins Who Knit. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Jessica.
And on this channel, we like to share all of the things that we have been up to knitting-wise, things that we're working on and have finished recently in kind of that podcast style format I think a lot of people are familiar with. Today we're also going to talk about some sewing that we've been doing, and we will save that for the end so that if you don't care that much about sewing, you don't have to stick around for it. But we are excited to share some non-knitting things today.
Yeah. Before we jump into all of that, I just wanted to give some context. I think it's been about 3 weeks since our last podcast, and it's just been a really busy 3 weeks, so I don't think we have as many finished objects as we usually do. It might be a little bit lighter, but still wanted to share with you all what we've been up to. In addition to that, we did want to start out with just a thank you to everyone who has reached out to us in the past week. Casey has had a lot of ups and downs in the past week, and a lot of people reached out to us letting us know that they were thinking about our city or shared their experience of what their experience was with this past week. So we really appreciated everyone who's reached out to us and really appreciate that connection.
So to give some context for it too, we're from Kansas City, and that's where we're at right now. This past week, the Chiefs, our football team, were in the Super Bowl, which here in the U.S. is a huge deal. I feel like it's getting global, like the NFL is starting to branch out to other places too. And so it's a really, really big deal that they even made it to the Super Bowl and that we won. They won last year too, so it's like a back-to-back,
it's just a really exciting time for our city, something to be excited about and proud of.
Yes. And so whenever a team wins, their city will always throw this huge parade, and Kansas City does too. There were estimated close to 1 million people, and we've had them before. They're really, really fun special events that people bring the whole family out for, and Kansas City, I think, has always prided themselves on how well they've gone. And this one ended in a shooting, which is not how anybody wanted to see that. It resulted in the loss of a life, which was just absolutely tragic. And it's hard now to hold that celebration of our team winning with the fact that somebody is not with us now because of it. And so Kansas City is just going through a lot of emotions, and we are no different than that. So
yeah. So like I said, just several people reached out and shared their stories, or just that they were thinking about the city and everything.
It was really kind that they thought of us. So
so we just really wanted to acknowledge that and appreciate it.
Yeah. So transitioning out back to knitting,
I want to let you guys know about some upcoming plans for our channel or things that we've been thinking about. We are going to the Unwind Caring for Your Maker Body and Soul here in a few weeks. And so we are really hoping that we can get some footage and maybe do a vlog style video, or maybe we'll just have some extra footage to include in our next podcast. We've never really done anything like that before, so we don't want to get our hopes up too high for the quality of content that we get, but that's definitely on our radar and something that we're thinking about. And then also we're thinking about doing a knit and chat, so let us know if that's something that you would be interested in watching, and if so, if you have any questions or topics of things that we should just chat about while we knit together.
Yeah, put any questions in the comments for us, and we will try to work on that here in the near future, because we think that might be fun.
Yeah. Let us know if you think it'd be fun too.
Yes. Let's see, what else? Do you want to start with what we're wearing?
Yeah, do you want to go first?
Okay, so I jumped into that. I was like, yes, I'm ready.
Yes.
This was a finished object last podcast, but I had 2 garments, and this time I have none. I don't know how I did that, but this is the Colette Pullover by Sari Nordlund. I knit this in Knitting for Olives, Merino in the color Nordic Beach, and their soft silk mohair in the color Oat. I thought that just kidding, not Oat, Marzipan. I had both in stash. This is the Marzipan. I really, really liked the pattern. It was fun to knit up. I wish that I could have made a bigger size, because I feel like it's not quite as oversized as I wanted it to be, but I was working with stash yarn, and that's what happened. I had trouble getting gauge with this. Sari Nordlund did this on US 4 needles, and my gauge was even a little bit tight for what it should be on US size 7 needles. So that was partially why I wish I could have gone up a little bit, is because I think my gauge is a tiny bit tighter than her version. But I really like it. And now I've decided to cuff the sleeves that I originally thought were too short, so I made them even shorter. And since I've woven in on the wrong side and then flipped it out, if you see like a little string hanging out, no, you didn't.
You just like pop it. Pop it to the other side.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I need to do, but I didn't do it before we started, so here we are.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm wearing.
Well, I'm wearing, I believe it's pronounced the Klippe Pullover, and it's by Lars. This was originally designed, I believe, for Woolstok for their like collection. However, I used a different yarn just because it was getting a little bit pricey if I used the Woolstok. I believe it was Top that they recommended. But instead I used Berroco Vintage DK. And I don't remember what colors I used, but it's like their cream color, and then it's kind of like a charcoal gray. And I think this one's called Mushroom. It's like a brown. And then this like light bluish gray color. But yeah, I liked this pattern, or I was like attracted to this pattern because it uses seed stitch within the stranded knitting. And I feel like I don't see that too often. Like I feel like usually with stranded knitting, it's all just stockinette. So I was really intrigued with the fact that this had seed stitch in it. And I really love this pattern so much that I've made it twice now. So we'll see if we can put like a photo of the other color scheme or other version of this sweater that I made. But yeah, I really love this sweater. It is very, very cropped. I don't know if you can see. It's like not that much longer than my pants, but I do usually tuck it in. But yeah, just something to consider if you do end up making this sweater. It's pretty cropped, but I personally, since I always wear like high-waisted jeans, I like that.
I think the color work is beautiful.
It was so fun. Like I really, it is. Gosh, I made this sweater in like 2021, so it's been several years since I made this one. But if I remember correctly, you knit the body and the sleeves like bottom up, and then you connect them and you work them in the round. And since it's fairly oversized, the yoke was pretty big. But yeah, it was really fun. You can't, hopefully it's not visible on camera, but in person, I always have makeup marks on the collar.
The curse of a white sweater.
Yeah, the curse of a white sweater is like permanently stained, but you know, it just means that I've worn it a lot and really like this one. So, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it.
I guess I'll start with finished objects, of which I have 2.
Okay,
but
I have 1.
Well, they're small, so
yeah.
Let me make sure I'm showing the correct side. I think I am. So last time I said that I'm going to be hopefully very quickly knitting a baby sweater. It worked out. So this is Micah's Raglan by Hanne Knits, and she also has a podcast on YouTube here. If you haven't found her account yet, she is really enjoyable to listen to and has really great style. So I was really glad that I got to knit one of her patterns. I actually was not planning on originally, like it didn't cross my mind at first, but I used the yarn Purl Soho's Plein Air. I'm reading the tag from it so I can make sure I'm telling everything correctly, which is 67% wool and 33% organically grown cotton. This is a new base, I believe, from Purl Soho because I got it at like an introductory like sale rate, and so I thought the price was really good for what I paid for it. I think it was like $15 a skein, and I got 2. And it said on the description like good for babies because I don't have a kid, so I don't feel like the most knowledgeable person knitting about baby stuff. And so I read that, I was like, let's give it a try. I love the color. I think it's really cute. But I was originally going to knit either I think it was the Ingrid baby sweater or the Moby sweater. And then I realized the Ingrid was a fingering weight in the baby, something like that. There was a reason I went away from it. And so I started the Moby sweater, which I'd knit before. And the stitch definition on this yarn was not good. Like in the Moby sweater, there's these like crisscrossing, they call them mock cables, but I get a cable needle out for them still, so to me they're like cables. But you could barely see it. Like the stitch definition on this yarn was not good. And at first I was very frustrated and I was like, I don't know what to do. So I went to Ravelry and came across this pattern and I got very excited that I could work that up. The cables do show up well, I think. And
do you think it's because they're like 2x2 cables instead of 1x1?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And there's only one, so you're kind of more focused on this, as opposed to the Moby sweater, there's like all sorts, so it kind of just like all blends together. And so once I found this pattern and started working it up, I started to like the yarn again. I was a little unsure at first.
It feels really soft.
Yeah, I think it'll be really nice. The stockinette, yeah, like this yarn, I would say just don't choose a super elaborate cabled sweater for it. And yeah, now I could see myself knitting like a garment for me in it. But when I first got it, I was like, oh no, I don't know what to do. But I had to, because the person that I'm giving this to, her color theme is blue, and I don't have a lot of blue yarn in stash. So I was like, I don't want to go out and buy more yarn now that I bought this blue yarn. I have to use this for a baby sweater. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to give this to her. And yeah, I really enjoyed knitting this up once I found this pattern. So yeah, that's my first finished object. We'll be giving her away very soon.
Well, I only have one finished object, and it is my Kohaku Socks by Yucca.
Those are beautiful.
I'll try to hold them up so you can see some of the cabling detail if the camera will focus. I don't know that it will. But it's basically just an all-over cabled sock. And what I really liked about this pattern was this like point here on the toe. I did lower it a little bit, so the pattern recommends starting it like at a certain length after you finish, because they're toe up. So they recommend starting this like cable point pattern after a certain length, and I decreased that by 1.5 centimeters. So I made it just a little bit lower to have it closer to the toe. And then the other major modification that I made to this pattern was it called for a short row heel. And I'm sure it would have been beautiful, but I just prefer to have the slip stitch, heel turn, heel flap, and gusset. So that's what I did here, was I just modified it to use my preferred heel style, but really didn't run into any issues there or anything. The only modification that I had to do in order to do the setup for that was I cast on, I believe, 4 more stitches during the like toe increase portion than what the author recommended. So I have a little bit more stockinette here on the foot than they recommend, but it's still pretty standard with what most sock patterns were, so I didn't feel like it was a major change or anything like that. So really, really love this sock pattern. I'm just a sucker for white socks. Oh, I should talk about the yarn too, actually. This is Coast to Coast natural sock in the colorway button. So
I'm very jealous you have that in stash.
It was my last one in stash. But Coast to Coast is opening a shop, like a physical store location next month. So hopefully
we are
hopefully
secretly running a campaign to bring Button into the store. Like, Erin, if you're watching, please do that for us.
It's very secret. She probably doesn't know, but that's our hopes and dreams. Is that because we're just obsessed with this button color. It's just so beautiful. It's such a good white. Or like,
watch her be watching this and be like, no.
But one other thing that I should talk about too when it comes to this pattern is goodness, once again, I don't know, hopefully it'll focus. I don't know if you can see. Goodness, our camera is not wanting to cooperate today. Anyways, in the like little diamonds here, the pattern writer, or the designer, gives different options for what you can put in there. So it gives the option for seed stitch or garter stitch, and I went with the seed stitch version.
Oh, it's nice that she gives options.
Yeah, there were a lot of options because
cool.
there were options for like inside this diamond pattern, and then there were also options for like if you wanted the heel to be a different color, maybe a couple other things too. I can't remember. But those were like the major modifications. So obviously I opted for like all solid colors, but I thought that was kind of cool. She gave instructions for if you want to switch it out or anything like that. So really enjoyed this pattern. I'm definitely going to have to try more socks by this designer in the future.
Yeah, they're beautiful. The detail on that is like, yes.
Yeah. I haven't worn them yet because I wanted them to be nice and crisp for showing you all today. But yeah, I'll have to start wearing them now that they're finished.
My other finished object is also a pair of socks. Although we've seen these before, both as a work in progress and like I've knit the pattern before, so we don't have to go too extensively into detail. But I finished my second pair of Poet Socks by Sari Nordlund. We'll see if
Yeah, maybe you'll have better luck than I did.
I don't know. Maybe. Hopefully. So I knit this. Wait, let me grab the label so I make sure I say everything right. This is the Sagen yarn by Elk Market, and the base is, I hope I'm saying it right, Ratatosk. Her theme is like monsters, and so I think that this is some sort of creature or something like that. But the color name is called Monster One because it was a situation where she was trying to get a color. It didn't turn out exactly like the color that she was going for, but she liked it and I liked it too, obviously, because I bought it. And so I think that it is still available, but it's not going to be one that she offers like long term. But I just kind of thought that the green worked pretty for the Poet Socks because in my mind it looked kind of like little leaves, and so I just kept thinking about what sock pattern I wanted to do for this color, and this is what came to mind, so we did it again. So that's my other finished object. Do you want to go into works in progress?
Sure.
I've got two.
I have three.
Okay.
So I'll start with what I've been working on. This is my Fortune Sweater by Petite Knit, and I'm using We Are Knitters Touch Me Mohair in the color Forest Green, which was very kindly gifted by them. So in the last episode, I'd been talking about how I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it. They did send me the pattern for the Shine Sweater, but I wasn't like obligated to use that. And when I swatched for it, I just felt like the needle size was a little bit big for what I wanted because it was just a little airier, a little more see-through than what I was hoping for. So I ended up switching gears. Thank you to everyone who sent pattern suggestions. The Fortune Sweater was actually one that someone left a comment about. And I don't know how I forgot about that one. I think it's just one of her, like, Petite Knit's really old patterns. So I kind of forgotten about it. But at the time I was leaning towards doing the Monday Sweater, which is one of her newer Raglans, but it's knit with like a fingering weight and a mohair. And the Fortune Sweater is like recommended for all mohair yarns. So I thought, like, you know, measurement wise, since it was like designed for this yarn, that might be a better choice. However, I am omitting the little lace motif pattern that the Fortune Sweater pattern is probably famous for, just because I wanted that like very simple raglan look. I am actually really loving this yarn right now. I feel like it, like the color is very like varsity, like it looks very retro. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like a really deep green. And you know how a lot of mohair, the silk core still maintains white, or like maintains the whiteness? Mm-hmm. It doesn't always have the same color. This is like very solid. Like the entire strand is just about the same color. There's very little variegation or like differentiation within the yarn. So I'm actually really enjoying that. We'll see how I like it once I'm like able to wear it and stuff, but I'm really enjoying working with this yarn.
I think it looks very fuzzy even for like a mohair.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe that. Like it's a mohair, but it really looks
see
so
if it
fuzzy.
If we can get it to focus. Yeah, it's very fuzzy. So yeah, it looks soft. I have a feeling once it's like blocked, it's just gonna look even more solid. I did want to do like a quick run through of some other suggestions that people left because people had some really good suggestions. I really enjoyed reading through all of the comments, and it was actually kind of hard to make a decision. Like I said, I narrowed it down to that Raglan because that's kind of where my brain originally went, and I feel like once you have your mindset on a specific pattern, it's kind of hard to change gears sometimes. But I'm just going to rapid fire some suggestions, and then we'll leave these down in the comments too if anyone happens to find themselves in a situation where they have a bunch of mohair and they need to know what to do with it. And I tried to get all of them in the comments, but let me know if I missed any. But the first one was Soho Blouse by Kadri, which is like a V-neck garter stitch. It's also a raglan, so that would be really beautiful. The Sook Moon Sweater by Eggyo Knit was another suggestion, and that one was kind of cool because it looks like it alternates between using like multiple strands of mohair with like a one strand, so it goes from like lighter to darker in stripes, so it's like solid color but it still has stripes. Dusking by Kiyomi Bergen, I think is how you say it. But that was another really cool suggestion, and that one's also kind of similar in that it goes from like using more strands of mohair to less strands of mohair, so it almost looks like it goes from like solid to see-through as you go down. And so I think it's actually a beautiful pattern, but since I tuck all of my sweaters in, I don't know that you would really see it on me, so I don't know that it would, I think it would be so beautiful on someone else, but I don't know that it would, like the true beauty of the pattern would be appreciated if I were to make this. The Sunday Sweater Mohair edition was another one, and so I think she has several patterns in this like Sunday collection, but this one's just her mohair edition one. The Ula Sweater by Gregoria Fibers was another suggestion, and that one's so beautiful. It has like stripes down the yoke that come to like a point, and I really heavily considered this one. However, it holds 3 strands of mohair together, whereas right now I'm holding 2 strands of mohair together, so I don't think I have enough yarn to have made this particular pattern. Similarly, the Nell Sweater by Gregoria Fibers was another suggestion, and same deal, it's absolutely beautiful, and that one would have been high on my list, but I don't think I had enough yarn. Since the yarn was gifted to me by We Are Knitters, they sent me 5 skeins, so I was a little more limited as to which patterns I could use with this particular amount. The Souffle Sweater by Laura Penrose was another suggestion.
I did that one.
I know, I thought about that because you've made that.
Yes.
Do you remember your experience with making the ruffle?
Yes.
Yes. Care to elaborate?
No, the pattern was wonderful. I was part of the test group, and I think what happened was, I don't remember if it was an error on my part or her part. It's a test knit, so like stuff happens, but I didn't have enough yarn, and so I had to order more. I was waiting. I was way behind all the other test knitters, and I remember everybody else was like already finished with their ruffle. They were so cute, and I got to mine, and I can't remember how many stitches it was, but I remember messaging the group chat and being like, why did no one warn me how long it was going to take to cast off that amount of stitches for the ruffle? It had to have been like 600 stitches or something, so it took like a whole day to cast the ruffle off. But it's a great pattern, so good suggestion.
It was beautiful. Worth it, just like mentally.
Yes, the ruffle took a long time.
Yeah. The next one was the Up in the Clouds Sweater by Camille K. And this one also, it appears to be a raglan, but this one has like a beautiful lace pattern down the sleeve, so that one's quite beautiful as well. And then the Cloud Sweater by Petite Knit was another suggestion. This one technically doesn't recommend using just mohair in the pattern. I believe it uses Isayer's Eco Soft combined with their soft silk mohair. But the recommended needle size is a US 7, so I think you definitely could swap 2 or 3 strands of mohair in there depending on like how thick you want it to be, and that one would also be beautiful. And then the last suggestion, I believe, was I think it's Musso by Espace Chico, and I believe this one was a free pattern. It looks like it's like a circular yoke. I'm not sure if it's like top down or bottom up. But it's just a beautiful, basic, simple stockinette, round yoke collar, or round yoke sweater. So all very good suggestions. I appreciate everyone who left comments. So hopefully if you find yourself with a ton of mohair in the future, now you have a little list, like I do. And I actually kind of want to make more of these now, so
I know some of those I was like, oh.
Yeah, I don't want to commit to like just mohair sweaters, but I'm like, ooh, have some good ideas now. So
I've got quite a few mohair projects in the future, and everything that I've done this year garment-wise has had mohair.
yeah.
Speaking of, I'll do my work in progress. I've got 2, but I'll start with my garment one. She is not in a cute place to display right now, to be honest. She's like in all sorts of pieces, or I don't know what's going on. So this is the Nord pullover by Hanne Rimmen. I am loving how it's turning out. I think that it's going to be really, really pretty. I think it's going to be really big, but that's okay. I am using the Fiberco Cumbria in their fingering base, and I'm holding it with Tynn silk mohair in like a beige color. And then the black is Knitting for Olive Merino and soft silk mohair in their black color. I think maybe licorice. I threw the labels away on that one. But that's what I'm using for it. It is a bottom-up construction, so that's why it's kind of like in an awkward place right now, is because I knitted the entire body and then I separated for the back panel, which is done and on hold, and then I'm working on the front panel. So it would definitely have looked a little bit more presentable if I had connected them, but I'm not there yet, so this is what we've got. I did make a modification to where I shortened the ribbing. The pattern recommends 14 centimeters, and I actually did knit almost 14 centimeters, and then I just kept looking at it and wondering if that's really what I wanted and how that would fit in with the way that I wear it, which is usually tucked into sweaters, and I just kept second guessing it, and so I took it out to half, so this is 7 centimeters, and then have been continuing the pattern as it recommends since then, and I think I'm gonna be happy with that choice. I still feel like 7 centimeters is a lot of ribbing for what I'm used to, so I think I'm gonna be happy with that choice. But yeah, the original pattern does have a lot more ribbing at the bottom, and I think most people that I've seen on like Ravelry and Instagram have followed that. Not everybody, but a lot of people. So we'll see when we're done if we really feel that way, but that's what we've got so far.
I think it'll be cute.
Yeah,
I personally like a long ribbing, so I
know you told me not to. You were like, just keep going, it's fine, you've already done it. But I don't know, I just kind of get it on my head. But I really enjoy this, like, to me it's like a checkerboard pattern, like the every other stitch going in there. That create these like really fun. It's like a plain striped sweater, but it's not. It's like got this added extra detail there. So I just think that color work detail is really fun and unique. It makes it like a little bit different without being too out there. So I'm hoping to have this finished soon so that I can wear it before it gets too warm to wear sweaters.
Yeah.
So that's my first work in progress.
Okay. I'll switch to my second one.
I dropped the yarn, sorry.
Oh goodness. Which way did she go? Here we go.
You've got a giant project too.
Yeah, it's massive. Or at least it feels that way just because I'm just on the last sleeve and then I need to do the collar. But this is my Harabi Cardigan. She looks a little funny right now because she hasn't been blocked and she has a lot of cables, but this is the one, and it's by Eggyo, and I'm using Fivel by Rama Garn, which is the recommended yarn. So you start with this sleeve and then knit.
Do you want me to hold it up for you?
Yeah. You knit the whole sleeve and then do some cast-ons on either side for like the front and the back. So you can see I haven't sewed those together yet. And then you knit up until you're ready to separate to the collar, and then you'll knit the front and the back like flat. Well, this was knit flat too, but you'll knit them separate because you separated from the collar. And then you'll cast on separately this other side and then join that to the back once you finish the back. And then do pretty much the exact opposite of what you did on the other side, where instead of casting on, you're like casting off. I hope I'm not giving away too much of the construction, but I was just so fascinated by how that works, because it's all horizontal, which I've never done before. I will say the lattice cabling right here was absolutely beautiful. I was not mentally prepared for how it was constructed, because I feel like most cable patterns that I've seen, you do like the cabling on the right side, and then usually the wrong side is just like knit the stitches however they present. So in this case, it would just be like a purl section, or a section where you purl all of the stitches. That was not the case with this lattice section. You end up cabling on every single row, and so when you get to the body and you have to knit flat back and forth, that means you're purling, or you're cabling on the wrong side, so you're like cabling as you purl, which I've never done before. So it really wasn't as complicated as I thought it was going to be. You do kind of get in a rhythm where you know how it's going to go and you don't have to think about it too much. But the first couple of rows, I was like flipping it over constantly to make sure that I was doing it right. So here, I'll see if I can hold that up so you can get a better visual of what those lattices look like. They are really pretty. I do really like them.
Yeah, I think they're pretty too.
The other issue that I had though with the lattices, and I think it's just the way that I cable, and for reference too, I know you can do these like 1x1 cables, just knitting, like manipulating your stitches on the needles rather than using a cable needle. But since I read ahead and knew that I would be cabling on the purl side, I kind of didn't want to learn how to do that on both the knit side and the purl side. I was like, I feel like using the cable needle will help me visually understand like which way the stitches are going. And so I used a cable needle for the whole thing. And I don't know if you can see it super obviously, but you can kind of see where my lattices are like tighter on this side, like on the back side, than they are on the front side. So hopefully that's not super obvious. I think it was just the way that I was like tugging on my stitches whenever I cable them. It doesn't bother me too much, and I'm hoping that blocking will help with that a little bit. It was just something that I kind of noticed as I was knitting it up. But yeah, I am enjoying this pattern. It's definitely challenging me in ways that a lot of patterns haven't recently. I will say though, like, I am glad to have the Fortune sweater as just like a really simple raglan, stockinette raglan, to kind of balance this one out, because this one is kind of a lot. But I only have maybe like half of a sleeve left, maybe a little bit more than half of a sleeve, and then I need to do the collar. So, and when I looked at that, it looks like you do like the top and the bottom of the body first, and then that way when you're doing the buttonholes, it's like just all on the front, and you can space those out nice and even without having to worry about like where the buttonhole's gonna sit on the top part. So hopefully that'll be like maybe a little bit easier. It looks pretty cropped. Yeah, it does look really short.
Have you tried it on yet?
Yeah, it does look a little short, but I think the ribbing on the bottom is gonna help with that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, this is my main whip, like what's been eating up most of my time recently. And because there's so much cabling between like the lattices and then this like big cable that goes up the sleeves, and then the rest of the body is just seed stitch, it's not a fast knit, which is okay. Knitting doesn't need to be fast, but it's like particularly slow, or at least it has been for me, but in a good way. I am enjoying it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, help me out on my last work in progress. Jessica knit these last year. This was in our Everything We Knit video. Did you knit this one when we had a podcast, or had you done it before?
I think I did it before.
I think so too. I don't remember you talking about it.
I think I've got the Mita Socks by Paula Strickland.
Yes. I'm copying her. So I was like, I would like to knit the same patterns. So I'm using actually the same yarn. Oh my gosh, I'm dropping all my yarn. The same yarn. Let me grab that. Okay, redo. I'm knitting the same, or using the same yarn as the Poet Socks, just in a different color. Originally, I bought these. Let me grab the Poet Socks again. Thinking that I was going to make a garment out of this color, so I actually have a lot more of this color, and that maybe I would do a color work, and I bought this at the same time. I think both of these are beautiful colors, but I don't know if I love them together. So we didn't do that. We are going to knit different socks, and they will just be their own thing. And so this again is the Sagen yarn in the Ratatosk. This time the color is Olven. I'm hoping I pronounce correctly. And so I'm just knitting this really simple pair of socks that is basically twisted rib pretty much the entire time. I think there's a different type of heel than I normally do that I'll be interested in starting soon. So I'm hoping
I think he uses the Flegel heel.
Yeah, I don't think I've done a Flegel heel before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be excited for that. Right now it's just a very simple little twisted rib tube, basically. Oh, let me get this string out of the way. You don't need that. So nothing like too earth-shattering here, but I'm excited to have them in my wardrobe, and yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying having this to work on too as a smaller project, because the Nord pullover feels gigantic right now for carrying around or things like that. This has become like my car knitting. So yeah.
Well, I do have one last whip. And this is one that I had started on in the last podcast, but I've made a little bit more progress on it. And this is the Judy Sweater by Gregoria Fibers. Last time I was working on size 3, and I think the reason was because I read the measurements wrong. I think I was looking at like the recommended bust size versus what I should have been looking at was like the finished garment measurements. So I think I read that wrong and was thinking, oh wow, the sizing on this is just odd, because usually I make the first or the second size in a pattern, and so me going up to a size 3, I was like, I just don't need to do that too often. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just because I read it wrong. So as soon as I realized that, I did end up frogging it all, and now I have restarted and I'm making the second size.
I remember sitting there because we were editing the last podcast together, and you were like, I'm knitting the 3rd size. I hope I don't regret that. And then literally like while we were editing, you were like, oh no.
Yeah. I was like, I do regret that. But that's okay. It's good to start over and like have something that you're going to really love. So that's what we did. So yeah, I did frog it. So I finished the back and then the front, and I've connected it in the round, and I've done probably 4 or 5 inches in the round. And then I've added the collar. But other than that, really nothing new to share. The yarn that I'm using is Woolstok by Blue Sky Fibers, which is just one of my favorite worsted weight yarns. So hopefully she's cute. I think she'll definitely sit a little bit better when she's blocked, just because she's very textury. See if you can see some of that texture. It almost kind of reminds me of like, what is it? Chainmail? Yeah, there's something.
Maybe it's the gray.
Maybe it's the gray. There's something almost like kind of armory about it.
I can see it, but I don't think it's gonna be bad.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be like in a good way, and I think it'll get a little bit flatter when it's blocked out. But Yeah, since this one also has a lot of texture and you just have to pay close attention between the Harabi cardigan having a lot going on and then this one having a lot going on, that one's kind of been taking my mental energy and I've been working predominantly on that one, and then this one's kind of taken the back burner. So hopefully once I finish that cardigan, she will get a little bit more of a priority. But that's my last whip. I just have the three garments going right now.
Do you have any acquisitions?
I don't.
I have one, so let's see if I can find it here. And I'll share one that's not really an acquisition here. So last podcast I shared that and I've talked about this before too, but I really love the Into the Woods color by Petite Knit, that for some unknown, unfathomable reason, she decided to discontinue, or maybe not she, maybe it was Sandnes Garn, but
the company is
somebody made a decision that I disagree with. It's fine. So I bought a whole bunch of skeins of this, and I originally bought enough that I thought I would hold a sweater, or I would hold it double to knit a sweater, but then I had somebody message me after that and very kindly recommend the Isayer silk mohair in the color 68. And so I bought it. I thought that was a great idea. So I'm gonna have a lot of leftovers for this. That's okay. I want to knit another Oslo hat for me because my husband has stolen it. And I'll see what other plans I can come up with for the leftovers. I'm not mad about having extras of these. But I'll show this color and show them together. The green. I think this one reads a tiny bit more green. I've heard people describe this as brown before. I see green, but then when I hold it next to the mohair, I do think the mohair is a little bit greener, but I still think they're going to work great together. I wish that I had had time to swatch. They literally just came in yesterday, so I'll be excited to work up a swatch and see how they actually combine together. But I think I'm going to make the Hour Pullover by Sari Nordlund. I talked about that last time, and I'm still thinking I'm committed to that idea, which is another bottom-up design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of really liking just having one tiny project, like a sock or a hat, and one bigger pullover. So I don't know if I'll get this cast on really soon. I feel like the Nord's gonna take a while, but I'm excited to have this so that when I am done, I can cast that on. And I'm starting to get nervous that I have more sweater plans than I'm going to have time for, because I feel like it's going to get warm in the not too distant future.
I don't mind knitting sweaters in the summer.
Yeah, I've got a lot of sweater quantities to get through, and next month's March, and then April starts getting warm usually. I don't know, we'll see. But that's my only acquisition for this week. So, or for this series, I guess. 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some sewing stuff? Because you have more than me done.
Yes. I think we're just going to put videos of our finished sewing projects up. I have 3, but that goes back to the very beginning of the year. So we haven't talked about sewing at all on this channel. However, I did mention in our goals video that one of my goals for the year was to sew more. And we've posted a few things on Instagram of, just things that we've been working on. So we had a few people reach out and recommend that we talk about those. So feel free to stick around if you're interested. But that's why I'm going back to January, is just because we haven't talked about it before. So the first sewing project that I made this year was the Clara dress by Silver Saga. And I used the washed linen from Blackbird Fabrics. I believe the color was oatmeal. And this was a perfect beginner pattern, because I would say when it comes to sewing, I would categorize us as adventurous beginners.
Yes.
We are very, very beginner.
Our knitting skills are much more impressive, I would think, than our sewing skills.
We've been doing it for a little longer. Sewing is one of those things I feel like our mom tried to teach us when we were little, and it just didn't click the way knitting did. And I don't know why, but I think there's something that feels more industrial about sewing to me. With knitting, it's you do every single little stitch, and so it feels very...
Well, in knitting,
I
I
don't know
think
how to
has
describe
more repetition. Like
Yes.
a lot of patterns will be like, this is your setup row, and then it will be like, continue this pattern for so many inches, and so you're doing the same thing over and over. Versus sewing is like, do this seam, and then do this and this, and like you're changing often, and so the process of learning, I think, is
It
different.
requires different parts of your brain, I
Yes,
think.
yes.
And part of it is like, you have to understand your machine, you know, you have to know what resources you have and like how your machine works and remember what buttons to push and things like that. And it just uses different,
Yes.
to me, I think it uses different muscles in my brain than knitting does for that
Yes.
reason.
A total aside, but
Yeah, total aside. But yeah, point is, I really loved the Clara dress pattern. And as someone who hates taping patterns together, because I did like print this at home and tape it together, the designer made it so easy to tape together. Like, I feel like I have messed up taping together so many patterns somehow, but she makes it foolproof. Like, I definitely would recommend this pattern if you're a beginner sewer, because it was really easy to tape together. The instructions I felt like were very clear. All of the shaping is done with elastic, so I was a little bit off like when I first made it, but you can just take out some elastic if it's a little bit too big, you know, which was really nice. So I really enjoyed this pattern, and I think it turned out really cute.
So I've only finished one sewing piece this year so far, but that was the Bubble Frock by Lydia Naomi, and I used a cotton linen blend by Blackbird Fabric. I want to say it was called To Go Linen. I don't know why, because I haven't found it again recently, so I might have made that up. But that's what I used for it. I would say similarly to the Clara dress that you were talking about, that the pattern was very easy to cut out and attach. I made the smallest size, and I think it only had like 11 pages or something. Like, it was the easiest pattern I've ever taped together. So I was like, yes, that's my least favorite part of sewing, is taping patterns together, but it's the cheaper route to go, so that's fine. But I made it in black because I was watching Tiffany from Typical Bliss one time when she did a Yarn Corner episode. She needs to do more of those. I love when she does those episodes. And she was talking about being inspired by somebody named Brittany Bathgate, who I had never heard of. And so I went and looked her up, and I found in one of her Instagram pictures this really beautiful, like, billowy black dress. It looked like it was in like a quilted fabric, and I didn't go that far, but I felt like this was my Brittany Bathgate inspired outfit. So, oh, and I added pockets. Always add pockets.
Always pockets.
When you can, yeah. I did omit the scallops that the bubble frock includes. I think it's like optional in the pattern. I've seen people that do it with and without, and I think the scallops are really cute, but I just didn't feel like it needed it, and especially if it was going to be inspired by this other dress that I had found, I just felt like without it was really what I wanted, so I did that. But I loved that pattern. I want to make it again in a whole bunch of different colors. I just feel like it's so fun. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and when yours turned out so cute, I decided that I would get the pattern and also do the same thing. So we'll put in a video. I've made one as well, and I
love the color you used.
Yes, it was. I don't remember what the fabric was called, but it was also from Blackbird Linen, and the color was called Antique Bronze. So I really loved the fabric. Although I don't know why, for some reason yours, like the bust portion of your dress, ended up very crisp. And mine has like a little bit of puckering in here, like right between the bust. So I don't know what I did wrong. I feel like it's really tight. Like the only thing I would know to do to fix that would be to make it even tighter. But I feel like if I make it tighter, then I'm not going to be able to breathe. So I don't think I can do that. So I don't know. Maybe I need to just like hit it with some starch or something. If you have any suggestions, let me know, because I really don't know what went wrong, like why yours is so crisp and why mine isn't. Because I used the interfacing that I recommended and everything. And I think the only thing that I did different than you is that you omitted the skirt lining.
Yes.
And you used the like bust lining, but you stitched in the ditch around. And I did put a full skirt lining in.
It makes yours much heavier. I picked yours up, I was like, oh.
It's a lot heavier. Which I kind of like, because I feel like I could wear it in the winter with a cardigan. It's, I probably wouldn't wear it in like the middle of summer when it's 100+ degrees, because the lining does make it heavier and probably a little hotter. But yeah, I'm still gonna wear it even if it does have a little bit of funky wrinkling in here.
Yeah,
it doesn't bother me too much, but probably just a what's the word? A side effect of us not being quite as advanced of sewers. But that's okay. We're still learning and figuring it out.
It's a process.
Yeah.
You have one others, don't you?
Yes, I had one other sewing project. Basically, the bubble frock that we just talked about was the first pattern that I'd done like an invisible zipper with. So I was like, oh, I kind of want to try something that also uses an invisible zipper so I can practice that and like build some repetition with it. So I basically took the exact same methodology of how to do the bubble frock, but instead of doing the like different bust pieces, I just did like a one strip for the waistband, or two strips because it was lined, and like the inside and the outside were pretty much the same. But I did like a strip for the waistband instead of the bust, and then I omitted the straps. But like construction wise, I pretty much just copied everything we did from the bubble frock, but with different shaping to make a skirt. And I used cotton poplin by Matchy Matchy Sewing Club. Originally, when I bought that fabric, I was intending to make a dress with it because I really want like a white summery dress. And I still want one of those. But when the poplin came in, it seemed like it was going to be a little thin, and I was scared that you would be able to see the seams if I didn't line it. And I didn't buy enough to line a full dress. So instead of doing the dress, we made the skirt instead. But I still think it'll be really cute. I will say I think I did 2 times the waistband for the gathers. And it's pretty gathered, so I think I could have gotten away with doing like 1.5, and it might have been a little. It might be a little less billowy.
No, I'm like here for it.
Yeah, but I think it'll be really fun come spring. It seems like a really fun spring skirt, and I've been seeing a lot of just like white midi skirts on Pinterest and stuff like that. So I definitely wanted one for my wardrobe, and I think it'll be fun to match sweaters with. We'll put a little video in here if we haven't already, but the sweater that I'm wearing it with is just like a thrifted sweater that I got at a thrift store, but it was 100% cashmere, so I was pretty excited to find that. Yeah. So I think that's it for sewing. Have some other future sewing projects coming up. I'll probably make another Clara dress because I was so happy with that. And I know you're working on some bisque trousers.
Yes.
So
the pockets. We did it, but it was... We stopped after the pockets for a day because I was like, that's enough mental exercise. So hopefully those will be done next time.
Yeah, so we may not show you all of our sewing projects because, to be honest, a lot of them don't turn out the way that we expect them to. But if we have others that we really enjoyed and think turned out good, we'll probably keep including them in the podcast if that's something that people are interested in seeing. Yes. So if you've made it this far, thank you. We really appreciate it.
And like we said at the beginning, if you're interested in a knit and chat and have questions for us, please let us know. We're just really happy that you're here and sharing this beautiful craft that we really love. So we also love hearing what you've been working on too, and we always get inspired by those. So thank you for joining.